Narumi Momose is an energetic and outgoing office worker. Today marks her first day at a new company, but she wakes up late. In a rush, she dashes out the door and makes a sprint for the train. Thankfully, she manages to catch it just in time. Narumi arrives at the company and is greeted by her new co-worker, Hanako Koyanagi. Hanako reassures her that if she needs anything, she can ask for help. Hanako then takes Narumi on a tour of the office. Despite trying to stay focused, Narumi finds herself distracted by Hanako's striking figure. Hanako mentions that it is unusual for someone to switch jobs at this time of year and asks if there is a particular reason behind Narumi's move. Narumi, feeling nervous, explains that it is complicated. As they continue the tour, they pass by two male colleagues. One of them catches Narumi's eye and she turns to look at him. Accidentally, she calls out his name, Hirotaka. He turns and greets her warmly. She expresses her excitement at working together again, revealing that they have not seen each other since middle school. She invites him to dinner and he agrees. Before they part ways, Hirotaka asks if Narumi plans to attend the next summer Comiket, which surprises her. Later, during dinner, they both spend time playing on their phones. Narumi jokingly threatens Hirotaka that if he reveals her otaku interests to their colleagues, she will expose his own obsession with the otaku game. Hirotaka, unfazed, admits he's not trying to hide his interests. When Narumi asks if he has a girlfriend, he says no, leading her to tease him about his lack of social skills. When Hirotaka reciprocates the question, Narumi drinks before explaining that her ex-boyfriend from her previous job began to avoid her when her otaku interests became known, eventually breaking up with her because he could not handle her being a yaoi fangirl. Frustrated, she bangs her fist on the table repeatedly, vowing to keep her secret safe from her next boyfriend. Hirotaka suggests she find someone who shares her interests, but Narumi declines, saying she does not want to date another otaku. Hirotaka says he does not mind dating someone from their community, but Narumi quickly rejects the idea, insisting that he's not her type. At work, Mr. Kabakura keeps teasing Hirotaka about his childhood friend, but Hirotaka ignores him, putting on his earphones and starting to play a game. This infuriates the ginger-haired man, who argues that such behavior is inappropriate at work. Hirotaka calmly shows him his watch, indicating that it is already his lunch break. Narumi heads to the lunchroom and spots Mrs. Koyanagi from a distance. She quickly realizes that Hanako is likely an otaku, which excites her at the prospect of finally having an otaku friend. She approaches her coworker and sees that Hanako is looking at a picture of a cosplayer who frequently appears at community events. Unable to contain her excitement, Narumi lets out a joyful scream, catching Koyanagi's attention. Koyanagi asks if Narumi has attended Basara recently, and, upon hearing Narumi's response, recognizes her as a fan of her work. Narumi, nervous, bites her lip hard enough to draw blood and requests that Hanako should not use her old nickname. She then inquires if Hanako is known in the community as MS Hana. Hanako confirms this, causing Narumi to gasp and express her admiration for that character. Despite making some mistakes at work, Mr. Kabakura is surprisingly kind to Narumi. However, he is far less forgiving with Hirotaka, even for minor errors. Hirotaka steps out for a cigarette and reminisces about his younger days with Narumi. A text from her jolts him back to the present, inviting him out for a drink after work to discuss something important. He agrees. After work, Hirotaka checks to see if Narumi is still finished with her documents, only to find that she still has work left. He teases her about being slow and settles in to play his game while he waits. When Narumi finally finishes, they head out for drinks. At the bar, the bartender mistakenly assumes that Hirotaka is Narumi's boyfriend, making her feel shy and nervous. Hirotaka quickly clarifies that they're not a couple. Narumi then asks him for help with a game. As they walk home together, Narumi expresses her gratitude for Hirotaka's help. He stops her and, to her surprise, confesses that he would do anything for her. She agrees to give their relationship a chance, and so they begin dating. At the company, Narumi excitedly tells her new friend Hanako about her new relationship. Mr. Kabakura asks Hirotaka if he's dating Narumi. Hirotaka confirms and mentions that she keeps hiding from him. Just then, Mr. Kabakura sees Hirotaka's girlfriend entering the office. When she spots Hirotaka, she hides under a table and covers her head with a book. Hanako advises her to stop hiding so she does not give Hirotaka the wrong impression or seem uninterested. Mr. Kabakura then asks Hirotaka if there has been a fight and suggests that he talk to Narumi to make sure their relationship does not affect their work. Mr. Kabakura says that despite Narumi's small breasts and some work mistakes, her smile makes up for it. Meanwhile, Hanako admits she's a bit envious because she finds Hirotaka attractive. Narumi admits that her ideal type is more like Mr. Kabakura, only to be shocked when she sees that both her boyfriend and Kabakura are standing nearby. Hirotaka is visibly angered by her comment. Hanako quickly intervenes, telling Hirotaka that Narumi is just scared and needs some time. She reassures him that she will talk to Narumi. However, Kabakura argues that their issues are personal and should not involve others, leading to a heated conflict with Hanako. Taking her chance, Narumi runs towards the elevator, but Hirotaka catches up with her. He reassures her that he's not trying to scare her and admits he is unsure how much time he should give her. Hirotaka then confesses he should not have told her he likes her, only to realize he never actually said it in the first place, leaving them both stunned. Narumi turns to face him and wraps her arms around him, apologizing for her behavior. She promises to try to avoid running away from him in the future. Embarrassed, Hirotaka covers his face with his hands. As they are walking, Hirotaka explains that he was not actually upset when he heard Narumi mention her type. It was her way she is behaving that made him think she is not interested in him anymore, which is why he was bothered. Hearing this makes Narumi smile. She then asks if they can stop by the arcade on their way. The following day, Kabakura apologizes to Hanako for his previous behavior. Later, Narumi, Hanako, Hirotaka, and Kabakura go out together and stop by a bookstore. The girls eagerly browse through manga, discussing their favorite series while leaving the men to themselves. Hanako and Narumi continue searching for the perfect book. Once they finish shopping, Kabakura, Hanako, and Narumi are thrilled with their finds and head off to their homes to read. Hirotaka is left alone, surprised by how the day turned out. At the event, Hirotaka texts Narumi to let her know that he's waiting in front of the venue. She arrives and apologizes for making him wait. They go inside where Narumi starts selling her newly published volume. Hirotaka watches her interact with her customers before stepping away to have a smoke. He receives a text from Kabakura asking where he is. The two of them meet up. Meanwhile, Narumi is thrilled to see Hanako in her cosplay and eagerly takes pictures of her. Later, as Hirotaka and Narumi sit together, Narumi suddenly panics and exclaims she forgot to visit one of her favorite gods in the annex. The god is associated with a popular genre, and now the area will be crowded. Slamming her fist on the table, tears well up in her eyes. Hirotaka quickly hands her purse back and tells her to go while he keeps an eye on her table. He also asks her to bring him some tea. As Narumi rushes back, she overhears a group of girls talking about her boyfriend. They describe him as a hot, tall guy wearing glasses who's selling love porn. Alarmed, Narumi hurries to reach the table faster to protect his reputation, but it's too crowded. When she finally arrives, she apologizes to Hirotaka and asks if he feels uncomfortable. He reassures her that he's actually enjoying the attention, mentioning that a guy had approached him, thrilled to learn Hirotaka was the author of the story. The man had even kept rubbing his hands. Later, Narumi texts Hanako and Kabakura, letting them know that Hirotaka was sexually harassed. By the end of the day, the event wraps up and Narumi feels relieved and happy. Hirotaka suggests it's time for them to spend some time together. She smiles, putting her hand on his shoulder, and informs him that the second event is about to start. On Friday, they have lunch together at work. Hirotaka asks if she has any plans for the next day. As he begins to suggest a plan for the evening, she cuts him off by eagerly agreeing to go out for a drink. Hirotaka suggests meeting at his place, which makes Narumi nervous as she suddenly remembers she's not entirely sure about which underwear she's wearing. Been there. They arrive at Hirotaka's house and Narumi sits down and tries to start a conversation. But everything she says comes out awkwardly, or does not make sense, and that's the truth, making her even more nervous. Hirotaka offers her a beer, and she becomes immersed in memories of back when they were kids and she used to come over to play. Hirotaka asks if she wants to take a shower, and Narumi's face turns red with embarrassment. She starts drinking the beer to steady herself. As Hirotaka leans in close, she turns away, suddenly self-conscious about her beige underwear. In a flustered attempt to change the subject, she awkwardly asks if they can wait until she's wearing pink underwear. Hirotaka, confused, is just reaching for the remote and mistakenly thinks she's asking for a pink one. He explains that he doesn't have a pink remote, leaving Narumi even more embarrassed. They play together, and he wins the round. Then, Hanako and Kabakura arrive to the house as well. Hanako expresses that she's excited about the sleepover, leaving Narumi stunned because she had no idea. Hanako and Kabakura sit down to play together while the others gather in the kitchen. Hirotaka expresses his happiness, noting that it's his first time playing with a group. Later, as the girls sit together, Kabakura exits the bathroom without his makeup. Hanako compliments him on his natural look. The girls then come up with the idea that every guy has a secret stash, and they decide to search for Hirotaka's. He agrees, saying he has nothing to hide, and they begin their search. Narumi notices the couple's matching necklaces that Hanako and Kabakura are wearing and admires them. She also realizes that all the characters in Hirotaka's collection have large breasts, which makes her self-conscious about her own smaller figure. While searching, she finds a box at the top of a shelf containing old toys and cards. She's startled when Hirotaka suddenly appears and they start reminiscing about their younger days. Hirotaka teases Narumi about being social and having many friends. She insists they should not keep secrets from each other and challenges him to punch her if he thinks she's a bad person. Instead, he leans in and kisses her, leaving both of them blushing and flustered as they tumble into bed together. Later, Hirotaka notices that the dolls on the top shelf are facing backward and asks Narumi about it. She, slightly annoyed, asks him if he likes breasts, to which he admits he does. The next day at work, Hirotaka presents Narumi with a pink game remote. Hirotaka arrives at the office and asks Narumi if she's had lunch yet. He places a katsu sandwich he bought for her on her desk. She looks at him with tears in her eyes, removes her earphones, and asks him to repeat what he said. Hirotaka picks up her phone to see what she's watching and teases her about not being a kid anymore, crying over Sailor Moon. Oh, come on, everyone cries over Sailor Moon. I cry over Sailor Moon. Narumi counters that it reminds her of her youth. Yeah, that's right, girl. They end up watching it together, and Hirotaka starts tearing up as well. In the lunchroom, the four friends gather round, looking at a picture of Hirotaka in a female cosplay with Narumi, followed by a photo of Kabakura kissing Hanako's cheek. When Kabakura sees the picture, he begins to shake with embarrassment. The next day, Hirotaka and Narumi are having lunch together when they're approached by an upset Kabakura and Hanako. Hanako explains that she wants to share her hobbies with her boyfriend, but Kabakura argues that he isn't interested in what she does. Narumi encourages Hanako's idea, believing it would be great if they both gave cosplay a try. Hanako reassures Kabakura that she plans to be a female character in their cosplay. Kabakura confesses his concern that he might not look good enough for the role, but Hanako tells him that it can still work if he shows genuine affection for his cosplay character. Days later, Hanako shares the pictures she took of Kabakura with her friends and talks about the process of capturing such great shots. Later, Hirotaka texts his girlfriend inviting her out after work along with their two other friends. They go out for drinks. Hanako spills alcohol on her chest and Hirotaka offers her a handkerchief. She asks him to wipe it for her, prompting both Narumi and Kabakura to angrily shout at him not to do so. As the night goes on, Hirotaka and Kabakura watch as their intoxicated girlfriends get closer, playfully rubbing their chests against each other. Kabakura takes the drink from his girlfriend's hand to prevent her from drinking more, which leads to a heated argument between them, bringing out the worst in both. Narumi tries to mediate by suggesting they each say something nice about the other. Kabakura mentions that he likes Hanako's large breasts, which only angers her more, leading her to attack him. Hanako then gets up and leaves. Narumi goes to check on her, and they talk about it. Hanako, tearful and hugging her friend, confides that she's upset because her relationship seems to be nothing but arguments. Kabakura approaches Narumi and asks her to return to Hirotaka while he makes amends with Hanako. Narumi agrees, but keeps peeking from behind the curtain. Kabakura advises her to stop watching. He and Hanako eventually reconcile and rejoin Narumi in Hirotaka. By the end of the night, as Hirotaka and Narumi walk home, she opens up about how her ex used to make her feel bad for being an otaku. Hirotaka confesses that he loves seeing her embrace her passions. They share a laugh and joke together, holding hands as they walk away. Narumi and her friends are at Starbucks when she spots the new barista, who she finds really cute. After handing her the drink, the barista asks if she is Narumi. That's when she realizes he is Naoya. Both of them light up with excitement at their unexpected reunion. Naoya mentions that his break will be coming up soon, and they can hang out during that time. Her two friends watch curiously as Narumi sits at a table with Naoya, a stranger to them. Kabakura acts like a concerned father, assuming that Naoya is one of Narumi's exes. Their surprise grows when Hirotaka joins them. He explains that Hanako texted him inviting him over. Kabakura scolds Hanako for inviting him without warning them. As Hirotaka approaches Narumi and Naoya, Kabakura and Hanako tense up, fearing a confrontation. To their relief, it turns out that No is actually Hirotaka's younger brother. Hirotaka is feeling very sleepy and tired, so everyone gathers at his house instead. He invites Narumi to join him for a game and offers Kabakura the GameCube controller. Narumi hands Naoya a remote, but he shyly admits that he's not very good at games. They decide to play in teams with Kabakura and Narumi paired up against the two brothers. Naoya struggles with the controls and ends up blowing up his character. Rookie. Which disappoints Kabakura and Narumi, who realize he was right about his gaming skills. Hey, if you've got it, you've got it, and if you don't, you don't. Naoya apologizes to his brother for losing, but Hirotaka quickly exclaims that he actually finds it easier to play alone. In the end, Hirotaka wins the game by himself and falls asleep right after. Naoya reassures Narumi that once Hirotaka falls asleep, he stays asleep for a while, and he offers to take care of him. He also offers to walk her to the station since it's getting late. However, Kabakura stands up and says he will walk both her and Hanako home. Narumi points out that they live in opposite directions, which makes Naoya insist on taking her himself. Kabakura glares at him and insists he will handle it, reminding Naoya that Narumi is dating his brother, so he should back off. The situation becomes awkward as a result. Naoya feels embarrassed and explains that he was not trying to overstep. He admits he didn't know Narumi and Hirotaka were dating, which only makes things more uncomfortable. As they argue, Hanako suddenly pulls Kabakura into a kiss, telling him she cannot wait any longer. Kabakura covers his face in embarrassment, while Narumi takes note of the scene, clearly thinking about how it could inspire her writing. Naoya asks Narumi if she's really dating Hirotaka, and she confirms it. Naoya buries his face in a pillow and begins to cry, leaving everyone around him confused. Through his tears, he expresses that he's happy Hirotaka has finally found someone. He admits that he's always wished for Narumi to stay by his side, revealing his deep feelings and genuine happiness for his brother. Hirotaka and Narumi are outside the company, watching the rain. He teases her about finishing her work early. She mentions that she forgot her umbrella and wonders what they should do now. Kabakura spots them and jokes about how, as adults, they can just run to a nearby store. Narumi argues that her notes will get wet, while Hirotaka claims his games will be ruined. Preach, preach. Kabakura then offers them an umbrella, saying he does not mind running in the rain since he has nothing to worry about. They start walking. Kabakura spots Hanako, and he runs up to her and asks if they can share the umbrella until he reaches the store. When she asks where his umbrella is, he admits he forgot it. She scolds him for possibly getting sick and begins to dry his face with a towel, making him smile. They then walk to his house together. The next day, Hirotaka tells his friends that he's worried about Narumi because she seems sad. They suggest he should ask her directly, but he explains that he already did, and Narumi insisted nothing is wrong. They recommend he try to cheer her up by focusing on her interests. Hirotaka recalls that she likes cosplay, and both he and Hanako tease Kabakura about it. When Narumi sees Hirotaka, she waves at him. As her workday ends, she finds her boyfriend waiting for her. Hirotaka invites Narumi out for a drink. As she starts to decline, he reassures her that the best way to feel better is to have fun and forget about things. She agrees and sits down, trying to reassure him not to worry about her. Hirotaka sits next to her, feeling upset that she isn't leaning on him more. She leans in close, though, and shares a secret that shocks him. Later, they meet up with their friends. When they learn that Narumi's sadness is due to her favorite manga character dying, they are stunned. As Narumi tears up and expresses her frustration, Hirotaka tries to stifle a laugh by covering his mouth, which only infuriates her further. Narumi tells Hanako she's saving money for the gacha event, even though it's Christmas preparation time. Hanako mentions that this will be her first Christmas with Hirotaka and asks if they are going on a date. Narumi explains that Hirotaka does not like crowds and then asks Hanako how she spent her last Christmas. Hanako recalls that it was the worst, as she and Kabakura were swamped with work, end-of-year parties, and writing New Year's cards. Later, as Narumi and Hirotaka are walking home, they pass by Starbucks and spot Naoya standing outside in a Santa outfit. They wave at each other, and Narumi starts taking pictures of him. Naoya offers them warm coffee, and Narumi comments on how tough his job must be, standing in the cold and forced to look cheerful. Naoya explains that he loves seeing others happy and opens up about wanting to have a girlfriend. Hirotaka teases Naoya, saying he's like the main character's best friend in a story and that he's a nice guy. I don't think he means that as a compliment. Their conversation is interrupted by a little kid who thinks Naoya is the real Santa. On Christmas Eve, Kabakura takes Hanako out for dinner. She teases him about whether he's trying to make up for the previous year, and they celebrate being together with a toast. Hanako gives him a gift, and when he sees the limited edition event items she bought for him, he's overjoyed. Kabakura is playing an online game when Narumi joins him. He's instantly captivated by her elf character and finds her incredibly cute. Narumi compliments his swordsman character and explains that she plays as an assassin, which makes her a high-level player. As a creature passes by, she quickly attacks it and collects herbs from the area. Curious, Narumi asks Kabakura when Hanako will join them. Kabakura responds that Hanako is currently taking a bath, but will log in soon. As they continue to explore together, Hanako finally joins the game. Narumi admires Hanako's avatar, finding it quite attractive, and they decide to take a screenshot together. Kabakura and Hanako then inquire about Hirotaka. Narumi explains that Hirotaka is not very interested in online games because he prefers not to interact with others. A rare enemy appears in the game, capturing their attention. Knowing that Hanako's character cannot defend them due to her low level, Kabakura suggests they run away. However, Narumi is thrilled by the rare encounter, as defeating it will earn them a lot of money. She attacks the monster, but misses. As she fights, Narumi senses the presence of a new character and is excited, thinking it might be Hirotaka. When the character greets her, she realizes it's actually Naoya. He explains that his brother is working on an anime and will log in once he's finished, but he asked Naoya to log in first. Kabakura informs everyone that Hirotaka's character is high level, and they ask Naoya if he can control it. Naoya struggles with the controls, and as he tries to move closer, the dragon unleashes fire, blowing him up. Narumi rushes to help, but the monster starts moving towards them. Fortunately, Hirotaka takes over and swiftly defeats the monster, saving them all. The next day, after Hanako and Narumi finish work, they decide to have dinner together, since the boys have gone out for drinks. The two girls chat about the anime they have been watching until Hanako brings up her interest in anime genres that are completely different from Narumi's. This causes a brief tension between them. Meanwhile, the boys are out with their colleagues, who keep talking about how cute Narumi is and mention that she has a boyfriend. Hirotaka suggests they change the subject, but the conversation shifts to their preference for attractive girls, like Hanako. Hirotaka reluctantly agrees with them that she is attractive. Annoyed, Kabakura nudges Hirotaka under the table with his knee. Narumi asks Hanako, meanwhile, if she's okay with the idea of a boys' love scenario involving her boyfriend. Hanako, unfazed, says she doesn't mind. They both quickly imagine Kabakura and Hirotaka in such a scenario, which leads them both to argue about not finding their boyfriends attractive enough for certain roles. Back at the bar, Kabakura, fed up with his colleague's relentless discussion about Narumi and his girlfriend, slams his glass on the table. With a bitter smile, he tells them to find girls who don't have boyfriends. As the evening progresses, the girls, meanwhile, continue to entertain increasingly outrageous scenarios involving their boyfriends. When they finally leave, they run into the boys, exchange their goodbyes, and part ways. The weather is gloomy and dark, and Narumi and her friends realize that Hirotaka is afraid of thunder. He explains that he does not like it because it brings back bad memories and he tends to lose in games whenever there's a storm. While Hanako finds this a bit silly, Kabakura and Narumi understand his struggle, knowing how troublesome power outages can be before they can save their progress. To distract himself, Hirotaka keeps his headphones on. He heads to the smoking area and watches the rainfall, which brings back a childhood memory of a thunderstorm. He recalls waking up to the sound of the doorbell, only to find Narumi there, also scared of the storm. Upon being in each other's presence, their fears fade away. Narumi sends him a text, and they both end up arguing about why they're both away from their desks. She reveals that she is also frightened of thunder. Hirotaka remembers the time he pierced his ear because he saw Narumi hanging out with a boy who had pierced ears. Later, the group of friends goes out for drinks. Hanako starts flirting with Narumi, and Kabakura advises her not to do that in front of Hirotaka. Hirotaka, however, says it does not bother him. Kabakura scolds Hirotaka, saying that if Hanako were a guy, he would have lost Narumi a long time ago. Hanako laughs and jokingly confesses that if she were a man, she would be gay and into boys' love, making Kabakura blush and feel embarrassed. He asks her to stop, but she teases him about liking the idea. In response, Kabakura grabs her firmly, reminding her that she shouldn't be acting like this, but Hanako playfully wraps her arms around him and teases him about what he plans to do about it. Narumi watches with admiration as Hanako and Kabakura tease each other. Hirotaka asks Narumi what she would do if he got drunk and flirted with other girls. She laughs, saying she cannot even imagine him doing that because he's just not the type. She smiles and pats his shoulder reassuringly. At work, Hirotaka asks his friends if they've seen Narumi, and they mention she might be at Starbucks since they have launched a new drink. He wants to know how Narumi and Kabakura behave when they're alone. Kabakura explains that they do normal couple activities and go out on weekends. This sparks another argument between him and Hanako. She reveals that on Sundays he just sits and watches anime. Angrily, she stands up to leave, but he grabs her arm, promising to make it up to her this weekend. She slaps him and walks away. Narumi is at Starbucks, observing Naoya and wondering why he and Hirotaka are so different. She catches up with Naoya, teasing him about his dating life. When Naoya asks if she and Hirotaka go on dates, it makes her consider it. Later, she thinks about asking Hirotaka out on a date, but assumes he would prefer to stay in and play games. To her surprise, he spots her and starts walking with her. He asks if she has gone to the arcade or bookstores with other guys before, and she says no, though she has been to the theater with them. Hirotaka then asks her out on a date for Sunday, making her smile. Hirotaka and Narumi are out on a date at the amusement park. As they stroll through the park, Hirotaka watches Narumi buy some sweets and come back with a treat for him. They have a piggy bank with them, and they put money into it every time they mention anything related to otaku culture as a playful penalty. While standing in line for a ride, Narumi comments about two guys ahead of them. She ends up putting money in the piggy bank for the otaku-related remark, which annoys her. Hirotaka, not to be outdone, makes a comment about something he saw on his phone and ends up adding to the piggy bank as well. Hirotaka ponders over possible conversation topics, clearly overthinking things. Narumi bursts into laughter, teasing him about his serious approach. She suggests they talk about their next ride and asks how he feels about it. He admits he feels like crying. They proceed to the ride and continue exploring the park. Both of them struggle to avoid mentioning anything related to otaku. They enter a haunted castle, and as they reach the main room, the door slams shut, causing Narumi to become frightened. Despite her fear, she tries to play it cool. 2 employees dressed in witch costumes greet them and usher them inside. Narumi, anxious, clutches Hirotaka's hand and rushes to the front seat. Once seated, she takes a deep breath and suggests she holds his hand if he's scared. When she turns to look at him, she's startled to find Kabakura staring back at her, his expression one of shock. Hirotaka decides not to go on the ride now since he's alone, but then Hanako shows up and suggests they go together. During the ride, Hanako seems unfazed by everything. She tells Hirotaka she heard he and Narumi were at the theme park and got jealous, so she begged her boyfriend to take her. Meanwhile, Narumi and Kabakura are both scared. They are relieved when the ride finally ends. Kabakura scolds Narumi for not paying attention. Later, Narumi apologizes to Hanako and the couples part ways. As they walk, Hirotaka tries to hold Narumi's hand, but when she looks at him, he quickly puts his hand on his neck. She suggests they sit down if he's tired from walking. She notices his feet are sore, so they find a place to rest. They finish their penalty game, and Narumi, happy, starts talking about her otaku interests again. She hands Hirotaka a gift, and it turns out to be a pair of earrings. Hirotaka gently tucks a strand of hair behind her ear, and she blushes. He's surprised to see that her ears are pierced. He starts laughing, and Narumi begins to scold him, but he cups her face in his hands and leans in as if to kiss her, only to pull her into a warm hug instead. He thanks her for the gift. When he tries to put the earring in, he realizes her piercing has closed up. Naoya meets a customer whose gaming silhouette reminds him of Hirotaka. The next day, he runs into the same person at the university cafeteria and introduces himself. He learns that the person, Sakuragi Ko, is a serious gamer like his brother, but he does not realize Ko is actually a girl because of her appearance and voice. Since he's not very good at gaming, Naoya asks Ko to play games with him and seeks help from Narumi and her friends to improve his skills. While they're trying to clear a difficult quest, a mysterious player helps them out just before Hirotaka arrives. Naoya thinks that it is Ko and thanks her with a message. The next day, Narumi begins running to ensure she arrives at work on time. As she hurries along, she accidentally bumps into Hirotaka, causing him to stumble into a nearby pole. Observing that he's not wearing his glasses, she initially assumes that he has switched to contact lenses. However, she soon realizes that this is not the case. In the office, Hirotaka's face is fixed on his screen, and Narumi grows concerned since she knows he's having trouble seeing clearly. She keeps a worried eye on him from a distance. Kabakura catches her off guard and asks what she's doing. He reminds her to stay focused on her own work. Hirotaka's female co-workers notice his handsome face without glasses, which distracts Narumi and makes her feel really jealous. To help everyone focus, Kabakura gives him an early lunch break so Hirotaka can get new glasses. Later, Naoya borrows his brother's computer to play multiplayer games with Ko. Despite repeatedly failing, Ko patiently helps him get better. Hirotaka, curious about Naoya's new gaming habit, logs in as Naoya's avatar and helps Ko with a quest. When Naoya returns after a phone call, he apologizes and decides to quit the game, but Ko promises to keep helping him and invites him to play together. In the morning, Kabakura and Hanako are enjoying their coffee. After finishing his own cup, Kabakura stands up and asks Hanako if she would like a refill. Hanako steps out onto the balcony for some fresh air and watches as the schoolgirls walk by, chatting about their after-school sports. She reminisces about her own high school days with Kabakura. Her thoughts are interrupted when Kabakura brings her a fresh glass of coffee. She suggests they go see the cherry blossoms next year. Kabakura agrees, but suggests that everyone should go together, which annoys Hanako. Meanwhile, Narumi leaves the convenience store and heads to Hirotaka's house. She remembers he mentioned he wanted to stay home during the holiday to play a game he didn't have time for. She hopes her visit won't bother him. Narumi brings some snacks for Hirotaka, but finds him passed out on the floor, having stayed up playing games without eating or sleeping. Been there, my friend. Deciding to help, Narumi starts cooking some fried rice. While on the phone with Hanako, she accidentally sees Hirotaka, who has just gotten out of the shower and is naked. She starts to scold him and urges him to get dressed. At Kabakura's house, him and Hanako argue again about boys' love manga. Koyanagi says she wants to share her love with it for others, even though she knows Kabakura usually likes to keep things to himself. Kabakura agrees to at least look through one of the manga. To his surprise, he actually enjoys it. Hey, don't judge it till you tried it. Narumi and Hirotaka sit down together at the table. She watches him eat the rice and asks why he doesn't use salt or pepper. He explains that he doesn't use them. He just doesn't. She argues that he should, especially since he has eggs and bacon in the fridge. Hirotaka says the eggs and bacon probably belong to Naoya, who stays over sometimes and does the cooking. Narumi stands up and suggests they go on a date after he finishes eating. Hirotaka agrees. They start walking and she notices they pass by a park. They sit on a bench and talk about their interests. Hirotaka proposes that they watch a late-night anime after dinner and relax, which makes Narumi anxious. She stands up and insists they go home right away. They start running and Hirotaka asks if she can cook for him again when they get home. He continues running and she asks him to wait for her. The next day, Narumi asks Naoya about his first love. Naoya shyly admits it was his kindergarten teacher. As the four co-workers leave the cafe after their break, Naoya comments on how Hirotaka managed to date his first love, Narumi. But Hirotaka quickly silences him with a look. And that's our anime recap for today, guys, and I hope you loved it as much as we loved presenting it to you. Now, you know exactly what I'm going to say next. If you like what we do, and if you want to see more of them, please like, subscribe, and ding that notification bell so you know exactly whenever a new one comes out. We're just getting started here at Anime Blitz, and we hope to be bringing you new content for the rest of eternity. Okay, guys, thanks so much. We'll talk to you next time. Bye.